Labor Day weekend has now come and gone, and because NC State played on Thursday, you might feel differently about the Wolfpack on Monday. Is that true?
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Our Monday show is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. As always, terms apply. Happy Victory Monday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. NC State football is 1-0 after week one. Obviously, we got into it pretty extensively Thursday evening in the postgame. At the time, it felt extremely disappointing. I mean, even right now, it might still feel extremely disappointing to a lot of y'all. I will lead with this. I now currently feel a little bit better on Monday than I did on Thursday. However, when I say that, the concerns I have, I believe, are still very apparent. The run blocking, the pass defense, the conservative nature of the play calling, all of that is very much still at the forefront of my brain. But, Kenton, after watching some pretty bad football from a lot of other schools around the country, I feel a little bit better about the Wolfpack.
I do not share those sentiments. I'm a big believer of the standard is the standard. I was raised in a household that functioned in that way. You know, I'll tell you a quick story as to why I don't feel that much better. Me and my sister would get the exact same grade point average. We would bring home the exact same grades to my mom, and my sister would get high fives and great job. And you did amazing. I'm so proud of you. And my mom would look at me and say, "You think this is enough? You think this is enough to keep me quiet and keep me off your back?" Because the standard isn't about did you win the game? Did you, was the margin big enough? It was about did you do things the right way? And
Yes.
To me, there were too many things that were not done the right way going down the stretch. But I will say this. One thing that I can admit we may have been a little bit harsh on, but I'm not even really fully willing to say we went too far there, was hey, we're in year 13. This is the same thing. Because, I mean, objectively, How many times have we seen Coach Dort get out the big leads, and then we try to nurse that lead, and then it just dwindles and dwindles and dwindles over a game. So we may have hammered down that point a little bit too much because we all know what that is. But at the end of the day, I don't feel better about this win coming out of it than I did, Thursday night, because, again, this is just a situation where the standard is the standard. And if you show me that you can get up on a team 17-0 like that, you've shown me that you can assert your will on that team. You've shown me that you can say, hey, this is our game. This is our show. This is our day. You're just along for the ride, buddy.
Yeah, that last point you had, I'm not mad that NC State didn't win by 20 or 30 or however many points you want to fill in the blank with. I'm mad that you were up by 17 with your foot on their throat, and then you kind of just forgot how to play football for the remaining 40, 45 minutes of the game. That's unacceptable. When you have a chance to put a team out after 20 to 25 minutes in what is considered a rivalry game, you got to have that killer instinct. And we just did not see that from NC State on Thursday evening. We're going to now get into the offensive and defensive reviews. This is, of course, against Kenton's keys. You might be kind of surprised on what we're about to say here, but we will begin with the offense. So as you see here, the first offensive key was to get Hollywood Smothers going. It was 8 yards per touch with a minimum of 15 touches. Hollywood Smothers actually had 26 touches in this game for a total of 106 yards, just over 4 yards per touch. Kenton, are you willing to give him a green light for this one because he touched the ball 26 times?
Absolutely not. The 8 yards per touch was a big part of it as well. It wasn't just about feed Hollywood. It was about feed Hollywood successfully. So I am not willing to give a green light there. Although you do get a gold star for effort or whatever, but that's about it. We are not giving you a green light for this one.
Yeah, putting the ball in the hands of one of your best players is certainly the way to go moving forward. So 26 touches was a great sight. However, the run blocking was just not effective enough to where you thought you could have gashed ECU for a lot more than you did. So we're going to go, well, actually, yeah, no partial credit here. Standard is the standard. No partial credit. Number 2 was protect the ball and protect the pack, commit less than 2 turnovers. You did accomplish this one. We only had 1 interception thrown by CJ Bailey. It was a bad interception. I don't think he saw the defender floating over to him, but that was the only turnover. You achieved that one.
Yeah, I think that they did a great job of protecting the ball. I mean, objectively speaking, if you tell me you're only going to turn over the ball once against ECU, I say you'll have a great shot at winning that ball game. You have a really good shot at winning that ball game. And so, they did their job there. They did a really good job protecting the ball.
And then last but certainly not least, the stars had to be the stars. We wanted at least 2 players go over 75-plus yards from scrimmage. We actually had not 2, but 3 go over 75-plus. Teddy Hoffman, 5 catches for 93. Wesley Grimes, 4 catches for 121. And as I just told you, Hollywood Smothers actually accomplished this just on the ground. He had 22 carries for 76 yards and a touchdown. Also caught 4 passes for 30 yards through the air. So 3 players went over 75-plus. That was also a great sight to see.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what a revelation Teddy Hoffman was in game 1. Hollywood did what we expect. And Wesley Grimes, baby, welcome to the party. Way to show up and show out like we always knew you could.
The emergence of Wesley Grimes in this game is really something we've been waiting to see. And if you can extrapolate that for the rest of the season, he might be in for a monstrous year, which is funny because when we talked about Wesley's over-under in terms of yardage, if I remember correctly, I think we put it like 400 or maybe 425. He's already a quarter of the way there after only playing just 1 game. So shout out to Wesley Grimes' monster game. That 4.2 speed was evident on Thursday night. To your point as well, Teddy Hoffman, what a delight that was. True freshman, a flipped commitment kind of late in the cycle. We had heard that he might see some involvement in the offense, but certainly didn't expect him to almost eclipse 100 yards through the air in just his first collegiate game. That'll be an interesting situation to watch, as we mentioned, because Noah Rogers endured what looked like maybe it was a concussion. Don't want to speculate there, but it didn't look great. So if you have a wide receiver that perhaps has to miss some time, if Teddy Hoffman can slot right in, not pun intended there, but slot right in and be effective, that's a great find for NC State at this stage of the season as well. So the offense went 2 out of 3. Probably should have went 3 for 3, especially with the start that Hollywood got off to. I thought his first 2 carries almost broke him off to the house. Again, a lot still to work on with the offensive line and the run blocking consistently. I thought the pass blocking was pretty decent. CJ Bailey was 24 of 34 for 318 and a touchdown, 71% completion. That's a great mark for your quarterback to hit, especially when you're expecting him to take a step forward here in year 2. Just real quickly, Kenton, what were your thoughts on CJ Bailey?
I thought he played a good game. I really did. Even the interception, sometimes I watch film and I say, what was the quarterback looking at? What was he reading? How did he, make that pass? Obviously, you don't want to throw late over the middle, but when you look at it from the behind angle and you can virtually see what CJ was seeing, the defender that intercepted it slid in perfectly. It was like an eclipse because the ref was positioned perfectly in front of the player who then pops out on the other end and interception. It's like, oh, you kind of live with that. That's not an everyday occurrence where it's like, we coach that stuff in and you should be able to deal with that. So CJ Bailey, I think he played a pretty good game. I thought that he was more decisive. I thought that he was sharp early and things kind of faltered down the stretch because they went away from the passing game. To me, when you have momentum, you roll with the momentum. You roll with what's cooking. Don't get me wrong. Yes, Hollywood did get off to a really good start running the ball. But because ECU's defense went so far to over-adjust for that, let the passing game let it rock. Don't slow it down in thought of, well, we've got such a big lead and we don't want to have a couple quick 3-and-outs that'll cause a problem. Forget it. Take those chances. And if you get a couple quick 3-and-outs, then we readjust the game plan. We say, okay, what do we need to do? But don't take the ball out of the hot hands just for kicks and giggles. That's terrible.
That was certainly one of my biggest complaints. It's the way that we kind of readjusted the offense later in that game and went away from what really worked against ECU early in that first quarter and half of the second quarter. You had them on their heels. Hollywood was dicing. CJ Bailey looked very decisive. Your wide receivers were getting open with separation, not just Teddy Hoffman, Wesley Grimes as well. I would just like to see them have that killer instinct. It just wasn't quite there. And maybe that is something that will develop further on into the season, as it is only week 1, game 1. All in all, I was impressed with some things with the offense. There was tempo. We were waiting to see if tempo was going to be a rumored myth or not, but it was real. We saw it in the first half, not so much in the second half. Interested to see what that looks like here as soon as this coming week against Virginia. Coming up next, we're getting into the defense reviews against Kenton's Keys. This comes after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first Monday sponsor is The Game. Quick question for all of you college football fans out there. If you could go back in time and sit front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, what hat would you be wearing? That's right, hat. What hat? For me, it would be The Game. These are not just hats, they're the same vintage style hats that fans wore back in the 80s and 90s. And guess what? They'll still go for the same price they did back in the day. When you use code LOCKEDON, you will get your vintage hat for just $16.99. In fact, I got mine on right here. Shout out to The Game, hooking us up for this college football season. Love this hat already. Perfect fit to the things that I already wear. And if you're interested in getting your own NC State vintage hat, head over to thegamecaps.com. Grab your team's classic bar or retro circle design and use code LOCKEDON for an exclusive discount. Because legends, you already know, they wear the game. Our second Monday sponsor is Gametime. College football is back, and we simply could not be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just simply nothing like it. But let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, and prices simply jumping off at checkout. But that's why this fall, you got to use Gametime. It's the app that gives the advantage to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with zero surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. You can pull up Gametime, and in just a couple taps, you see amazing deals. I'm talking your favorite college football teams in your favorite college football games as low as just $25. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets all fall with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, and again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege. LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College, for $20 off today. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Gametime app today. And lastly, here in the first stanza, Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make our favorite podcast that much better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't like, and answer questions about our advertising. Head on over to lockedonpodcast.com/survey in order to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find this link in our show notes. Thanks for helping us out. Middle portion of our Monday show, now switching gears into the defensive side of the ball. Before we get into the keys here, Kenton, just blanket review. How do you feel about the defense on Monday?
You know, the blitzing, fantastic.
It was
fantastic. My only caveat to that would be the defensive back play. You know, you kind of, everything in this world is a give and take. When you give something, you're going, when you give something, you're going to lose something in exchange. And when you bring as many bodies as you did into the pass rush, you're naturally going to lose some guys out of coverage. Yikes. It was a little bit of a yikes moment there in terms of kind of letting Hauser have his way for a lot of this ball game. But, I will say, way to stop the run. That was phenomenal. Seeing you shouldn't let a group of 6 school run the ball on you at a high clip like they did in the bowl game, and that didn't happen again. And so, way to go there. But again, the passing defense, we got some things to tighten up, and that's okay. That's all right, because all of our DBs that transferred out last year, if you watched any of them play, all of them look pretty good. So, you can't expect to lose high caliber players and then just come back and like, oh yeah, nothing ever happened here, because something did in fact happen.
One of the most important things we had talked about so much about this game is NC State coming in and getting off to a fast start. And a lot of folks, when you hear that, you think, yeah, the offense needs to start early. We need to get clicking. But you can't exclude the defense in that equation either. The defense needs to come out with intensity and put their foot down. And early in this game, they did. And Barstool Pack put this picture on Twitter. I'll show it to you now. You've heard me mention like the first 20 minutes, the first 25 minutes of the game, NC State was dominating. So this picture, as you can see, because of time of possession, was taken with about 20 minutes already played in this game. So you're looking at the second quarter. The categories you see here on the Carter Finley scoreboard screen, total yards at that point, NC State 210, ECU negative 15. Rushing yards, NC State 55, ECU negative 23. Passing yards, NC State 155, ECU 8, only 8. Third down conversions, NC State had 4, ECU 0. Then, as I mentioned, time of possession, NC State already had the ball at that point in 20 minutes. NC State had it for 14 minutes and 16 seconds. ECU 4 minutes and 41 seconds. That is what the early stages of domination look like. So that's where the bulk of our frustrations are coming from. You had them on the mat. And of course, these games are 60 minutes. ECU wants to win too, so they're going to try. They're not just going to give up. But NC State developing a killer instinct, that's what's going to make the difference between 6 wins and 8 wins for the Wolfpack. You can't allow teams to find a way to take a breath. In this case, it was a 79-yard broken play that went for a touchdown. If ECU doesn't hit for that in the second quarter, then what does this game look like? If ECU goes into halftime with 0 points, what does the second half look like? Well, we'll never know because we allowed them to come back into the game. That is the killer instinct that you got to find a way to develop. And to my earliest point that I feel a little bit better on Monday, I'm willing to give you a slight bit of grace because it's week 1. But again, these are the things that are already red flags. This trend cannot continue if you do want to win more than just 6 games. All right, but now getting into the defensive keys. Number 1, that was to bring the Boomkester. Caden Noonkester had to pin ECU inside of their own 20-yard line twice with punts. We actually had 2 of these exactly, so Noonkester did, in fact, bring the boom.
Yeah, make him work. Make him work for it. That's the big thing. NC State has done a great job as of late in terms of these last few years in special teams being a net positive time after time after time again. And Noonkester has been a big part of that. Him being an effective punter has been a big part of that. Last year, he took a step back in some regards, but he has been a major part of that, and he was in this game.
Coach Dorn had made some comments in the preseason about Noonkester sort of returning to form after what was a little bit of a down year. Certainly looked like he's well on his way after his performance on Thursday. So 1 for 1 there. The second key was to get your lick back. ECU absolutely cheese graded us on the ground in the Military Bowl. Did not happen on Thursday night, however. 29 carries for just 30 yards. One of those big detractors was the fumble that went like 33 yards backwards. That certainly helped us out. But this was a great job by NC State's run defense. They certainly emphasized how embarrassed they were after that Military Bowl. They came downhill fast. They made impact fast. And they made sure that ECU could get nothing on the ground.
Even if you do take away that the one fumble over the head, which we'll assume, being generous, was negative 30 yards, that would put you at 28 carries for what, 60 some odd yards, like that.
Roughly.
We watched it all night. This was a domination in terms of the defensive line of scrimmage, in terms of filling gaps, in terms of making big time tackles. Way to go. Way to go. Run fits. You know, I tell people all the time, the first part of football, the first part of defense is alignment and assignment. And then after you do that, the next thing is when you have that alignment and assignment, executing it. Everywhere that you see a gap, there needs to be a hat of your team's color, either running to that gap with relentless effort or already in that gap. That is something that this team accomplished very well. There was a gap hat. One thing that we had last year, sometimes we have a gap with 2 hats, which means what happens to the gap next to it? Oh, no hat there. And as the old saying goes, if you don't find your gap, the ball will. That couldn't happen in this game because guys were where they were supposed to be. Great job.
And to that same point, Sebastian Harsh and Kean Sloan were outstanding for NC State on Thursday evening. What a pleasant surprise. And we kind of talked about some impact players that you needed to see step up for the defense. Those 2 all night long were present like all the time. They were flying to the football, making the tackle, and ensuring that the defense was able to get off the field on third downs. Pleasantly surprised, in my opinion, of the defense. Outside of what we're about to talk about in the pass defense, we know that defense was probably the biggest concern of this team coming into the offseason. But based on what we saw Thursday night, if you can fix a couple things, perhaps we will be surprised for the rest of the season, but time will tell. The third key was to buckle up, put ECU wide receivers in some seatbelts. We did not want any of them to record over 75 receiving yards. Did not accomplish this one. Brock Spalding, 6 catches for 97 yards. On the whole, ECU had 31 catches for 383. Caden Hauser really got busy there in the second half. He was 30 of 44, 366 yards, and just 1 touchdown through the air. Kenton, your thoughts on the pass defense for NC State?
And I want to make one thing clear. Even if we didn't have the situation with the botched no timeout call when they were, going hurry up and we had guys celebrating and whatnot, even if that never happened, we still wouldn't have accomplished this.
Right.
Again, it's a trade-off, and I understand that blitzing is part of who DJ Elliott is. I understand bringing the heat, bringing the pressure, part of who he is. Sometimes, hey, it's all right. It's all right to leave some guys in coverage and understand that Sloan and Harsh were cooking all night.
Yeah.
Brandon Cleveland, when he got back in the game, cooking. Your guys up front, your big fellas, Travali Price and company, Chase Bond, cooking.
Yep.
Cooking. You don't. Sometimes you evaluate the situation and you say, wait a minute now. I know I like blitzing, but these dogs are going to hunt with little to no help. We can sit back in coverage and just see how that plays out for us just a little bit here. So, all in all, though, I'm not that disappointed in this one because we kind of knew what the secondary was going to be. Like the defensive line and the linebacker core played above their heads, played so well that I'm like, wow, that's a pleasant surprise. The defensive backfield not being exactly great, I'm not too mad at that because that's something we foresaw coming in.
Yeah, some questions about the secondary. What I find important, though, is we named the three-headed monster. That's Anthony Smith, Yannick Smith, and Jaquays Petaway for ECU. You didn't let those 3 beat you. Now, again, Brock Spalding had 97 yards. Javante Connor had that 79-yard broken play touchdown. So those 2 hit you for some explosives. But the main 3 threats that you knew ECU had, you kept those guys relatively in a bottle. Anthony Smith, 6 catches for 66 yards. Yannick Smith, 5 catches for 44. Jaquays Petaway, 2 catches for -5. So you really had the clamps on him. All things considered, you accomplished your goal. You did not allow a large amount of explosive plays to beat you. And what I also think is true, what I said on Thursday night, it really felt like late in that second half, they were just giving up the underneath routes. You could give up the soft to prevent getting burned by a fly route from Anthony Smith. They still tried it, and they almost hit it a couple times, but it was never successful. So on the whole, there's still some work to be done for the NC State secondary, but you didn't allow their main threat to be the thing that killed you. So I guess a small bit of success there. But moving forward, like Chandler Morris for UVA this coming week, kid can sling it. We're going to have to see another pretty solid test for this NC State secondary coming up this coming Saturday. But, 383 yards through the air, that's a bit much. Caden Hauser, again, I thought he got busy against us there in the second half and really made a lot of us fans kind of grip under our seat that much tighter. But some of the conservative play calling, maybe that can help you out. I'm rambling now, but 2-3 here on the defense and special teams. We had 2 of 3 on the offense as well. 4 of 6 overall against Kenton's Keys. Kenton, how you feel?
It makes sense. It makes sense because the start that you came out with and the things that this game was a tale of 2 cities. It truly was the best of times and the worst of times all in one game, right? You had moments of sheer dominance in a way that it was unfamiliar. I have never in my life seen an NC State run defense play that well for that extended of a period. I haven't seen it. And then there were also things that I've too regularly seen NC State have all the momentum, have your offense cooking, doing a certain thing, and then just decide, actually, we're going to do the exact opposite of that thing. Right. Like I get it. A lot of people are practicing revisionist history in terms of like, oh, look at how well KC's playing. Look at how well our DBs are playing. Like, why couldn't they be good here? They were. They were all good here. Okay. KC was the ACC Rookie of the Year. And then he came back and we fed him the ball a ton. We did everything we could to get him the ball a lot. We had him returning punts. Oh, he returned a punt for a touchdown. Did we not have him returning punts? So I'm I'm saying here, there are legitimate critiques and then there are illegitimate critiques. Okay. Yes. The reality is I look at 4 of 6 and I say, this team played well. They showed up well. There's no need to create stuff where there isn't, because there's plenty of legitimate things to critique. You can critique the play calling and coming up off of the gas when you've got this team on the ropes. You can absolutely critique that. You can critique the fact that we ran some variation of inside zone 7 first down straight. You can critique that. I don't care who you are. I don't care how good your offensive line is. Unless you got the Dallas Cowboys offensive line from the 90s, you cannot run the same play 7 times in a row, and the defensive coordinator that's getting paid somewhere in the 6 figures ain't going to figure out, here's the play we're going to call to stop that. Yeah, they're probably going to run the same thing that they ran the last 5 ones, right? Yeah, here's what we're going to do to stop that. So, it's a situation where there were good things, very good things. There were some very bad things. 4 of 6 makes a lot of sense here.
Perfect segue into our final block of Monday's show, our big picture takeaways coming up after a quick word from our sponsors. Our final Monday sponsor is Rugiet. Fellas, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe even you've tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to get Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in just 15 minutes or less. Effects can last up to 36 hours, and you can stay confident and control when the moment is right. Head on over to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's Rugiet, RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College, and use promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. Last couple minutes of our Monday show. Now time, as we always do on Monday, our big picture takeaways from the week's game prior. So Kenton, 24-17 over the ECU Pirates. Give me your big picture takeaway for the Wolfpack after just one game.
Biggest picture takeaway, whether you win by 1 point or you win by 100, a win is a win. So I don't want that to get lost in the shuffle of saying, hey, you won, just not in the way that, I would like you to. So the biggest picture takeaway, better to be 1-0 than 0-1. Better to beat a team in state that thinks like, oh, we're as good as you are. We're better than you are. Better to beat that team than to lose that ball game. Much better to win that game. And now, off of that, I would say my other big picture takeaways are, I think in very limited activity, I liked what I saw from the offense starting out early. I liked what I saw from the defense when they were playing football. Like, hey, every single inch they gain is like a slap in my mother's face. I like the way that they came out and played early with their hair on fire. And the other thing about this, the big picture takeaway that I need people to realize, I am not upset that the game was close. I'm upset that ECU did not play a clean football game and the game was close. I've seen it before. I've seen it where a group of 5 team is playing, or group of 6 team rather, was playing phenomenal football, and you tip your cap and say, hey, that's probably the best game they're going to play all season. Or they're one of the best teams in the group of 6. You live with that. This was a team that made mistake after mistake after mistake, from botched snaps to penalties where they extended our drives and gave us points, in essence. And you're telling me the best you can come out of that with is a 7-point victory, where you are outscored in the second half by 10 points? That's tough. That's tough. When you go up 17-0, you cannot then be outscored 7-17 for the rest of the game. You cannot do that. You cannot do that. So I'm sitting here and I'm saying, a lot of people are going to say, oh, Wolfpack Nation is just such doom and gloomers if you don't win by 100. No. Again, if I watch the tape and I see ECU just hitting plays where I'm like, hey, Caden Hawes is going to be playing on Sundays. Hey, man.
Yeah.
Anthony Smith, the plays that he's making right now. Hey, man, the plays that Callaway is making. You just got to throw your shoulders up and say, if they gonna make that play every time, every defense is designed to give you certain things to say, if the offense makes that play, we got to be okay with that. The reality is they didn't play a clean game. They didn't play the type of game that you would tip your cap and say, hey, there's nothing better you could have done. And yet we still found ourselves clinching to the edge of our seats and our heart rates elevated for the fourth down play at the end of the game there. It's disheartening. It's disheartening. And anybody pretending like it's not, either you don't know ball or you weren't paying attention. I'm always happy with a win, but again, I'm not happy with bad habits forming and developing. I'm not happy with a situation where we have to count on teams getting 86 yards in penalties and bot snaps for us to win. I'm not okay with that.
Could not have said it any better myself. Again, to echo Kenton's point, I'm not mad that we didn't blow them out. I'm not mad that we didn't cover the spread. I'm not mad that we didn't dominate them after a year of them talking, flapping their gums about how they're the best program. I'm mad that NC State, just ourselves, focusing on ourselves, we didn't play good football. That's what I'm upset about. We didn't look good in the second half. And that's even more frustrating because of how you played in the first 20 to 25 minutes. That screenshot I just showed you, it was domination for 20 minutes. ECU fans were probably considering going home early. It was supposed to be that ugly. To let ECU back into the game, and then you have to grip your seats because ECU has the ball inside of our own red zone. It's like, how do we even why are we doing this again? That's the feeling that all of us had. So that was the overwhelming feeling that I had on Thursday. Some elements still here on Monday. Again, I do feel a little bit better. There's some progressions to be made. All the concerns, I think, are valid. If you have concerns about the run block, that's valid. The secondary, that's valid. Those are things that have to get cleaned up. But yes, you are 1-0. ECU's 0-1. Half of the country now is 0-1, but NC State is not in that category. That is now and forever will be a good thing. You won the game. That was your goal. You accomplished that goal. Can it look a little better the next time you accomplish the goal? Certainly. But you're 1-0 and you won a rivalry game. All that talking that ECU did, irrelevant now. They're 1-4 in their last 5 games against us. Don't let them forget it. So NC State is 1-0, 24-17, week 1 victory over the ECU Pirates. There's more to talk about here coming up on Tuesday's show. We do have a locked on look of the week. Then we'll turn the page probably on Wednesday, start talking about the Virginia Cavaliers. Until then, thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to hit that like button, drop your comments in the comment box, smash that subscribe button if you have not already. We'll see you back here tomorrow on Tuesday for more. And until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.